Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Scenic Route Astrology. Makayla here, and this is our video on the transit of Neptune. So this is going to be part one of three. The other two, of course, I will delineate Neptune transiting through all 12 houses, okay? In this video, I'm just going to touch on Neptune transits in general, what they can feel like, what you can expect, and the best way to approach these transits, okay? Just so you know, if you're new to my channel, I am an evolutionary and predictive astrologer, and I welcome you for being here. Please make sure you give my video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps my channel grow and helps me continue to make these videos for all of you guys. Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. One of the things I want to mention first is that, I've been doing a lot of these new videos in devotion to my spiritual teacher and mentor who recently passed away about a month and a half ago, Tom Jacobs. Some of you might know his work as an evolutionary astrologer, channel and medium. I had about three and a half years of one-on-one training with him, and Tom was a big part in my evolutionary astrology journey, a big part of me learning how to be a spiritual coach and also trained medium and channel. And I'm just trying to direct as much of his work with my flavor into the universe and continue to share his information as well as my experiences and give you the gift of knowledge through astrology. Okay. So I'm glad you're here so we can learn about Neptune transits in your chart, and hopefully it gives you some new perspectives. So this is a very complicated planet for many people. In evolutionary astrology, we will associate Neptune, the 12th house, and Pisces as a trinity, although they're very different in many ways because, Pisces will be behaviorisms, the 12th house will be where those behaviorisms are activated, and Neptune will be, what we're doing with those behaviorisms, right? Or how those behaviorisms are showing up in our chart, right? Through the planet Neptune itself. Neptune has a very large orbital period around the sun. It's about 165 years. So it spends about like 14 years in the sign, give or take. So these transits are longer for you. And specifically why this video I think is relevant now is because come March 30th of 2025, we're going to begin a new 14-year cycle with Neptune moving into Aries, which is going to be a very different flavor for all of you in your personal lives, but also in the collective scale. Okay. Neptune has been in Pisces for a while. It's been very comfortable in Pisces. It's one of its home signs. Well, it is its home sign. And Neptune going into Aries is just going to give this planet a very different flavor. So I'll probably touch on some of this towards the end of this video, but more likely I'll have a part 4 because I have a lot of thoughts around Neptune and how it's going to act in Aries, me being in Aries itself, and having had lots of 12th house like coaching techniques and spiritual techniques under my belt. I feel like I'm able to I've just had a lot of downloads, okay, with this consciousness coming through. And of course, it's going to hit my sun and my Mercury. So anyway, so you're gonna have this transit for the next 14 years and it moves into Aries. It would be helpful for you to listen to this video and think about where Neptune is now in your chart and how it's been wrapping up that cycle, okay, like the last 14 years in Pisces, what are the lessons that you've learned, and you'll be able to deeper into that when you listen to the houses videos, right? Because the reflection is everything. I'll give you some of my personal examples as I go through this training with you, because I thought a lot about, wow, that was truly Neptunian work going through my 5th house and rolling through my 6th for the last 14 years. And you can really see the transition. So because these outer planets have longer orbital periods and they take longer to go through a section of your chart, the dynamics that come through this consciousness of this planet take longer to unfold. They take longer to work through. They take longer to evolve through. Okay. So it's not like a quick, Mercury retrograde, it's in and out, or our current Venus retrograde cycle that we're in. where I'm sure all these relationship dynamics are coming up and like they're in, they're out, and it's kind of quick decision making, right? Even if it's like 3 weeks can seem like forever. Compare like a 3 week Mercury retrograde transit to a 14-year transit of Neptune, right? These themes are longer overarching themes that you're going to have and that you're going to experience. So that being said, they tend to hold more weight. Okay. They tend to hold more weight of importance. But they allow you longer times to navigate through. Neptune is a completely different consciousness level, of course, aside from Saturn and Pluto. I have already put out my Saturn and Pluto videos for you, transit wise, and those are just different, heavier energies. Neptune is coming in here and it's really wanting you to connect to your higher self. And so we're going to go more into the right brain of our hemisphere, okay, when we're thinking about this. But I do want to bring it down to reality, okay, because there's a lot of astrologers, I think and they're not wrong to say that, it's like a confusing time and it's a time where not everything seems so real and things will be uncertain and there won't be clarity. And yes, those themes can be absolutely true, but I want to bring your right brain forward also with your left, your logical side, so that you're able to actually come into this Neptune transit, this new transit that you'll be having with a higher level of consciousness, right? And like an actual connection to your higher self. Okay. Me as a spiritual coach and also trained medium, these things fell into my lap over time. And it was all synchronistic with this Neptune transit that was happening in my life. But it really opened me up to the fact that even though we can't physically touch other forms of consciousness or other like layers of reality, okay, because we tend to live in our 3D reality, the other levels of reality are extremely real, and we can bring it down into our 3D consciousness level. Okay, and stay with me if you're like, oh my gosh, just getting all woo woo, just stay with me for a second. I'm trying to bring this higher level of vision that you can have and this intuition that you can get from Neptune transit into like a practical reality and a way to ground it and a way to actually navigate these kind of transits, okay, rather than it leading to chaos in your life, okay, more into the practical sense, the Buddha sense, right, of surrender and acceptance, right, and letting go of attachment, which is going to be major themes around Neptune transits, okay. So I'm kind of just like getting right into the flow of this. So when you're experiencing Neptunian transit, whether that is in a new sign, which you will have, a new house, which it will be ruling a new house, and touching a planet in your natal chart, Neptune is asking you to find some sort of truth, okay? Some sort of higher meaning and higher connection to life and truth for yourself, okay? And what ends up happening is this really challenges the ego identity of the individual. We all have an ego, and it's like not a bad thing, right? We're learning to like consciously work with our egos and our personalities in a healthy manner and understand the difference between like when the ego's getting in the way and it's doing something for like negative validation versus just the need to like share and give and express that yourself, right, kind of validation, so because there's different levels there, and I'm sure I'll get into it one day when we talk about a fifth house Leo sun kind of video. Let me know if you want that next. But so there's a need to have more meaning in life, right, and that will usually come from an opening up of vulnerability and opening up of our hearts, of our compassion and our consciousness level to something that is bigger than our ego or bigger than ourselves, right? So when Neptune comes into, a new house or touches a planet, it's coming in here and it's like, can we make this more meaningful? Can we connect to something more universal, bigger than your immediate reality in yourself, right? And it'll be like this undertone, this wave of energy that will come in and start to affect the individual, affect your chart, whatever capacity it's hitting it, right? And there's a few things that can happen. Like you can feel this need for that and already be in the state of surrender and then start to go with the flow and move towards that. Although for most people, it's really not the case unless they've done heaps and heaps of work on themselves. Like you're really in that Buddha state, and you're like super consciously aware. And the other one will be this, this sense of meaninglessness and this emptiness, and it can be quite painful because the thing that you're wanting to have a deeper meaning with life or a greater connection with life, if you will, there'll be like this emptiness and this void that will start to be felt because it wants to be filled in with something. Okay. And so these feelings can begin to show you that there's like limitations to the personality and there's like something beyond yourself. Okay. So this weight of Neptune is extremely emotional, no matter what sign it's in. It's an emotional sign, but archetype, but it's also like a very big, heavy consciousness. Okay. It's consciousness that will like kind of fog and cloud over. And I think that's why a lot of astrologers and a lot of astrology books talk about the Neptunian fog and the Neptunian cloud and what will you, because there's just this haze that will come over and it's like, okay, how do I navigate? Because the universe is so big. Our possibilities to manifest things in life is infinite. Our need for connection, we have billions of people on this world, like finding soulmate, for instance, right? And it's in a fucking sea of people, a sea of navigation of like people navigating. It would be quite hard for some individuals to be like, I can't find my soulmate, right? And all of these people in this search and this longing. Okay. Of course, I'll get a bit deeper into this like during the house's transit, but just to give you like a broad perspective right now. Okay. So when we feel like we want to connect and create some meaning, and there can be a disconnect, and there often will be, especially when you're getting like a new transit hit, because remember, evolutionary astrology, what we're studying is as we're evolving, right? We're evolving our soul from lifetime to lifetime. So hopefully we're getting wiser, we're getting better, we're getting more compassionate, more understanding, we're letting go of our ancestral traumas, our fears, our shame, right? Our guilt and all these things. We're becoming lighter human beings, right? Among the muck of the world, and the work that we do actually helps lift the vibration of the planet, right? It is a selfish journey. I subscribe to it being a selfish journey because the only thing you're going to change is your own reality anyway, and your own level of consciousness. And by doing that, you will impact the people around you. And that is the only way that we heal the entire world. Okay. So anyway, this is why things like escapism come into play at first with the Neptunian transit. Now, sometimes it can last the whole time for people, right? Because they're stuck in these addiction patterns and they can't escape it and they can't let go, right? It's like it's a big journey. So that's why Neptune can be quite dangerous. Even a 12th house transit, right? Or 12th house experience, right? We really want to let go of our ego's need to feel something, to escape something, right? Like in sex, right? Or porn addictions or food addictions, drugs and alcohol. I mean, even like working out too much, right? Can be one of those things, or becoming like too infatuated with like music, for instance, right? Like going overboard to escape the reality. Okay. That can be like a huge uh, um, outcome from a Neptunian transit. Okay, and then this can cause a person to feel overwhelmed. And then they can just like put you in a cyclical journey, okay, a cyclical journey that you're constantly in. But essentially, what Neptune is doing when it transits something is it's changing the frequency of your energy. Okay. And that can be a lot for somebody to hold. Okay. That is why there can be a need for escapism. Like, I need to just like escape the truth that is trying to come forward and show up in my immediate life, right? So there can also be this over glamorization of something. Okay, so say it's a seventh house, it can be partners. You're over glamorizing partners because you want to escape within partner to find that connection, that and that meaning in life. But the thing is Neptune is trying to, and all of the transits are always trying to help you to connect with a higher version of yourself first. Okay, it's going to be particularly tricky, I think, for Neptune transiting the seventh house for people, but I'll get into that in a little bit during the houses video, right? But even like Neptune transiting the fifth house, for instance, right? This over glamorization of, you know, creative self-expression and trying to find meaning in like what makes me feel like I'm connected to something, right? What makes my creative expression feel meaningful, feel a sense of connection to the universe, feel something that's bigger outside of myself. And so a lot of people can actually go through, and this is like, honestly, I went through this like when Neptune first went into Pisces through my fifth house is like this longing to find my special purpose and like my meaning for life and like what is my purpose. Like I can specifically remember like living in China and being like a stay-at-home girlfriend at the time and just like wanting a longing for a career and a job and like knowing that I had a special purpose and like I couldn't figure it out. And it was a very long transit of over glamorizing other people's careers and their purposes that they found, and me trying on those shoes, right? Like thinking I was going to be a mechanical engineer, for instance, at one point. Like, what? Like, I hate math. Like, so like what Neptune can do is it can come in and it can oversaturate that area of the chart where it over idealizes other things that they seem outside of yourself, okay? But it's really this journey to go within, okay, and find that specific thing within and find that connection, that wholeness within your soul. You'll get there if you're doing the work, right? But there needs to be a lot of surrender and a lot of letting go. And one of the things that we tend to do is to try to have control over the situation that we don't have control over. Okay, so again, like in my personal experience, I wanted to have a career path, couldn't figure out what felt right for me, and was trying to control it by like talking and discussing and trying on the costumes from other people for so long, to only find out that like you come to a point when Neptune comes in and you're trying to control it so much, it creates a lot of stress in your life. And we're going to talk about the questions you need to ask yourself during a Neptune transit. We're also going to talk about when you're resisting it and when you're surrendering to it and what that will look like. If for me, I was like, I didn't know astrology then, right? I didn't have these tools. I was like in my young 20s, but like trying to completely fight it all the time was just prolonging the pain and prolonging the suffering, going to school, signing up for classes and stuff that just like didn't resonate and like I wasn't following through with anyway because it wasn't for my soul, right? It wasn't for my soul. And it wasn't until I actually just like had these moments of like, fuck it, surrender. I'm gonna go do this thing. It just feels right, right? It wasn't like, oh, that is beautiful, glamorous looking. Let me try that on. I went towards more of this just feels right now in the moment. I'm gonna do that. And that's when life really began to unfold. And I found all my passions, right? It just came flooding in. Like Neptune opened up the doors at this point with like philosophy and religion and spirituality and creativity and fitness and wellness and coaching, right? And freedom and just like all this stuff just came flooding into my zone when I actually just went with intuition and feeling and letting go rather than trying to control something that I was trying to figure out. Because with Neptune, you will figure it out, but not in the logical mental sense. Okay. You're going to figure it out through the feeling and the intuition and the surrendering to life and letting yourself being guided towards an experience kind of sense. Okay. So that's why it's difficult for a lot of humans, like especially ones that like a structure or like a plan or like to know what's going on or what they're doing. That's not going to work with Neptune. And Neptune is a powerful planet and it's going to overpower and it's going to trump other planets because again, it's it's weightier in consciousness. It's a breakthrough like planet, okay? It crosses you into a higher dimension, a higher threshold to your spiritual side, right? To your higher self. That's always going to win. Okay? That's always going to win. So that's why it will cause chaos and suffering and loneliness and isolation and addictions, right? And the wrong people in your life and being misguided and being lied to and being, swayed in the wrong direction and being cheated on and being stolen from. Like all those things will come through if you are trying to control something that is not meant for you, essentially. Okay. Not meant for you, whether it's like literally just not the right path or the right time for whatever thing. Okay. So we want to be aware of when negative escapism tendencies show up. And, like there can be healthy forms of escapism too, but they can still be negative, right? If we put ourselves like too hardcore and too obsessed into it as well, right? So we just want to be mindful of that because this whole transit is just trying to open you up to a higher sense of truth. It's not trying to like medicate you through like some sort of addiction, right? So many of you guys know if you're like just been following my channel, like I'm training for a fitness show. And that's because Neptune is like the minute it like started going to my sixth house was when I started being like, oh, I'm going to start doing fitness competitions and so forth, right? Because there's a sort of high that you can get from, training your body so hard and having a really good workout and me being able to connect to like a meditative space when I'm having like a really good workout and like having these downloads because I'm matching the frequency of my physical body to the frequency of where my emotional body is, right? And bringing that up, right? So just as another example, right? But I have to be also very mindful of like the balance of that and not over escaping into that sense too and becoming so addicted to, training stuff that I forget my other responsibilities, which is a sixth house theme, right? Your responsibilities, your daily tasks, right? So that's just like one version. But again, we're going to have two separate videos with Neptune transiting the houses. So like let's go through some questions that I learned through my teacher too that I find incredibly helpful when we're thinking about a Neptune transit. Okay. And so one of the things we want to start to think about is, do we have control over our life? Okay. Because remember, Neptune is going to ask you wherever it's transiting in your chart and whatever planets it's hitting, it's going to ask you to stop having control. Okay. Stop trying to have control. This is where we have to have a trust in our higher self, a trust in the universe to let us roll, let us guide, let us flow, let us breeze, whatever you will, with, the ebbs and the flows and the timing and like what's really meant for us. Okay. And so it's going to ask you to surrender to things that are bigger than yourself. Okay. So this is going to challenge again the ego. Okay. And it's going to, when your ego feels challenged, right? You're going to have to ask yourself, like, why won't I surrender to this? Like, right. What will it cost me if I just let this thing go, for instance, I love to go out to eat, for instance, right? I love to go out to eat. It's like a bad thing, it's a bad habit, it's expensive, right? It's like, but I just love sitting at a bar. I love talking to random people. I like trying new food. I don't like having to cook for myself all the time, right? And Neptune came into my sixth house and I'm also signing up for this competition. And I'm like, oh, I can't go out to eat. Like, I can't do this kind of thing. Right. And I had to let go of the control of like, that was one of my ways of, I guess, like de-stressing, or like dealing with stress was like going treating it to like out to dinner, right? Which is like completely ridiculous, right? So it's very sixth house thing too, like responsibilities again, like being diligent, being mindful of like, tossing out things basically, Virgo undertone of like that aren't necessary. I'm just laughing at myself because it's a perfect example right now and it just came to me. But you need to like think about what will it cost you, right? And so at first it's like, oh, well, this will cost me my sanity because this is one of my things that I just like to do to like just blow off energy and blow off heat. But then I'm like, but the long-term goal is like getting on this stage and like and this is gonna like go into my wellness coaching and this is gonna be bigger than what I ever imagined. Is like doing these shows also helps me on my wellness and my coaching side, and this becomes bigger than me, like the competition and the giving up the going out to eat and stuff and like the sacrifice, right, which is a Neptunian thing in some sense, and the need to surrender control to like how I used to handle some stress, letting that go to something that feels bigger than me. That was a huge thing. Okay. And that is what like a Neptune experience is going to ask you, right? What are you not willing to surrender to something that is bigger than yourself, right? What is it going to cost you if you surrender? And more likely than not, you're going to gain something bigger rather than sticking and resisting with the Neptunian transit and not gaining that much, just being stuck in this escapism type of dynamic, right? So you get beyond that with the Neptune transit, right? You get beyond that. That's why learning to channel, and again, like if you're ever interested in spiritual coaching, I do one-on-one spiritual coaching sessions. It's on my website. You don't need to do astrology. We can just focus on you gaining your consciousness level to your chakra system and actually learning how to read your own energy and intuition so sharply so that when you get these transits, you're figuring it out sooner than later, right? You're like in it, like you're here, you're present. I swear to God, it's life changing. So anyway, um, so then Neptune's also going to ask you at this point, what's true, right? What do you believe to be true right now? Because again, Neptune is trying to purify something, okay? Especially in Aries, there's going to be an overvocation of purification. But, Neptune transits, they will purify something. They are trying to clean the water and bring it to a pristine reality, a higher truth. Okay. So it's going to ask you in that area of chart, like, what do you think is true right now? And is it true? Is this working out for you right now? Kind of thing. So again, let's go back to my example of going out to eat. Neptune going to my sixth house now, still in Pisces, going to be in Aries, but whatever, right? Was it true that that was like actually alleviating my stress, or was I just in this cycle of like going out to eat and there's this escapism tendency, right? So it wasn't getting me anywhere. So one of those questions you want to ask is, what does it get you right now, right? And these are like kind of hard questions to ask yourself because the escapism things, right, that we're used to, and the things that make us feel good for a fleeting moment with Neptune transits, right, they're hard to give up. And that's why they become addictions, right? That's why they become escapism tendencies, what have you. Okay. It can be really hard to face that Neptunian truth, right? But when you do, again, your frequency begins to change. And then your consciousness begins to change, and your life will change, like it will. So you want to either work with this energy, right, and start going in the positive way, or you can resist the need to let go, and then you can let chaos come in, because chaos will come in with this, right, if you resist. And I don't mean that to be like scary. I'm like literally saying this like from the bottom of my heart, just being like a realistic person here as an astrologer. Okay. Not to say your life will be doomed, because it's like not what I'm saying, but hopefully you get the point. So Um, there's a challenge to surrender to something that you're holding on to. All right. And the contrast will show you that it's not working. Okay. If there's an ickiness, if there's a stuckness, if there's a feeling of isolation, again, those addiction things are coming through. If you're feeling worn down, that is a huge sign as well that you're resisting a Neptunian transit. That's why a lot of people, a lot of astrologers will associate Neptune with like feeling tired, feeling just like be like low on energy. You won't have that if you're using Neptune in its positive way, right? If you're not responding to your higher self, you're not listening to your higher self, then you're going to feel that resistance because you're fighting essentially your higher self and you're fighting life. You're like Neptune represents the ocean itself, right? Oceanic consciousness. Imagine just trying to swim in the ocean for like years, just like against the stream, when if you just like went and rolled with it, eventually you're going to get to the shore and be way less exhausted, right? So that's one of the things. And then we want to also understand that this could mean if you're feeling the resistance, and again, there's no judgment because I'm obviously telling you my own personal experiences around this because nobody is free from a Neptune transit, right? We're all going to have it. We're all going to have to face them in our own little ways, our own little human ways. Um, you're going to be feeling like that resistance is going to be you holding on to an identity, right? Your ego's holding on to an identity, right? So, the identity for me that it made me more social, or is it like essentially when it was going through my fifth house and I was trying on all of these ego identities of, oh, that person has a cool job and they make a lot of money. Oh, that person gets to travel a lot and they make a lot of money. That person lives out of hotels. I'd love to live out of hotels. That person lives in a foreign country, right? Trying on all these egoic like things that I thought was an attachment to who I was. And it wasn't until letting go, again, surrendering and letting go to all of that, where I found out me, Makayla and soul, Makayla's personality, right? My avatar, and soul. And I found the things that are actually me, right? And of course, like I'm bigger than being an evolutionary astrologer and a spiritual coach. Like I am bigger than being a bikini competitor, right? I'm bigger than being a dog mom, right? And just like all these things, like we're bigger than our ego identities. And Neptune's going to come in no matter where it's going through your chart. It's going to test your attachments to your ego identities because we're transcending beyond the ego at this point, right? We're on our soul path, our soul mission with Neptune. And this is also coming from a lot of Liz Green's work because I read her book, The Road to Redemption, the Neptune book, and or something, the need for redemption or something like that. But Neptune can be about redemption as well, right? The need to like feel like you need to sacrifice something, right? To gain back something, okay? To redeem oneself, redeem one's ego and whatnot. And that's why we can go through these chaotic periods of like over glamorizing something or over idealizing something or someone or a job, right? Or an identity. Like somebody gets famous and then they're like, first things coming to mind, this is not a true story because I didn't read it anywhere, but say one of the Game of Thrones characters, right? That show blew the F up. And like say that just like one of the actors, like super famous, right? Super famous, and like holds on to that identity, right? That identity of that character that they played because it made them larger than themselves, but they're more than that, right? They're more than the identity and the character they played. So the challenge could be to let go of like these identities that once made them feel so connected. That will begin to be challenged because Neptune's like, no, right? What is actually the bigger meaningful thing here for you to understand that you're connected to everything and all of things at once. Okay. um so other things to ask yourself, no matter where Neptune is transiting in your chart and in your natal chart as well, is do you feel connected to the cosmos and the universe and, humanity itself? And are you accepting the way life is right now? Whether it is difficult or not, we all go, I think, through just highs and lows throughout life. And we just have to kind of roll with the experiences that we're getting given to us. Okay. Because one of the things is asking, do you accept that the experiences you're having in this current time or in this current Neptunian transit is serving you a higher purpose? Again, I didn't feel like when I was searching for career and like purpose, I was so sad and confused that like I couldn't figure it out. And at the time, I was living in China. And if had I had known what I know now, it's like that was the right time and space for me because I love Asia, and Asia is deeply connected to astrology and the spiritual and Buddhist teachings that I study, the Kabbalistic teachings also, like all these experiences that I was getting also with other people and conversing with other people in China, traveling, exploring, all leads into what I do now and the life that I have now, right? My villa being built right now in Thailand, for instance, and like eventually moving over there. And it's all connected, but you don't see it sometimes at the time. And so that can be the challenging thing is like right now needing to accept the fact that whatever experience you're going through, it's like, do you trust that this is a part of a bigger experience, right? That this is going to lead into something down the line. And the thing is with Neptune is like, you don't know, right? Because it won't show you essentially, right? It's about trust. It's about trusting with your intuition, your higher self, and allowing things to unfold, right? So this also asks you to open up your consciousness level. And then so you ask yourself, can I see things from a higher perspective? Okay. Pisces is like, the OG ruler of Neptune. It comes after Aquarius, right? Aquarius, we are high in the sky, okay, with our consciousness level, with our logical mind, analytical mind, objective mind. And then we can go into the Pisces realm, which is when we can find the meaning and the compassion and the connection from that lens, from that higher lens, from holding all of that consciousness. Right now, like if you're watching this video, I'd love you to just like take your hands out here, okay, and just try to feel energy in between your hands, okay? You know what I mean? Just hold them and then try to feel the sense that you can actually feel energy in between both of your hands. And when you come closer together, you can feel it become tenser and denser and a little tighter, right? And when you open up your hands, you can feel more energy. It's lifted, it's lighter, it's heavier, there's more to hold, okay? But it's almost buoyant, right? And that's the same thing that will happen when you're asking yourself during a Neptunian transit, can I have a higher and different perspective? Okay. You'll be able to hold more. Okay. You won't feel so restricted and controlled. You'll feel more free and open and able to relax, which is the goal with a Neptunian transit. Okay. So then you also want to ask yourself, do you give life the benefit of the doubt? Okay, to show you that you can trust in life, right? To show you that maybe down the line you might actually, like me, like find the career, you know what I mean? Find the meaning, find the purpose, find the thing that makes you feel connected to humanity and the cosmos. And then you want to ask yourself what distracts you from feeling true. Okay, so we got to look at ourselves, look at our ego. All right, like, hey, Mac, no more sushi dinners like all the time, kind of thing. Like what distracts you? And like what do you choose that distracts you? Because you have a choice, right? You're gonna have a choice. So like anything in life, any transit, you're gonna have a choice. So just sit on those questions. You know what I mean? Sit on those questions, like take your chart, look at where Neptune is now and Pisces, right? It's in Pisces right now still until the end of this month. And think about where you've been the last 4 years, right? With these questions and like what your journey has. And you can ask yourself this and you can listen to this video and you can now flavor that into the next episode of your life you're going into when Neptune goes into Aries and rules a new house in your chart. Okay. So let's talk about feelings. So I mentioned it a little bit before, but when you're feeling worn down and tired, that's like you're resisting Neptune. Okay. When you're feeling stressed, like you fear losing control. Also, again, remember, we have to lose control. We have to accept that we don't have complete control. Okay. Accept that we don't have complete control with the Neptunian transit. And when you try to resist it, it's often because like it feels like your ego is going to die, something about you isn't going to feel right. You might lose a sense of identity, lose a sense of yourself, right? And that's when you have to go back to that question of like, what do I have to lose? Like, what is this costing me right now? Okay. Because you don't want to feel like you are just like not in control. Okay. It's much easier, and there is a much better way to handle these transits with Neptune. Okay. If you learn the dynamic of surrender, and that's really what it is. And surrender doesn't mean that like your ego has to die, and it doesn't mean that like you're giving up on something. Okay. It just means that you're actually taking a more control over your consciousness level, and you're allowing your anxiety and your nervousness to just fall away, right? You're allowing more peace to flood in because you're releasing this need to let go. Like you're releasing this need to control something, and you're learning that the art of letting go. And that is a complete normal process of life. We have this whole life death cycle I won't get into because I think everyone's very well aware life death cycle in the universe. Okay. But give it time to erode. Give things time to erode, to let themselves be seen, like the truth be shown to you over this time. Okay. Understand that also a helpful thing about learning to surrender is that things can be painful with a Neptune transit, of course, because there's a surrender process, there's a letting go process. Something may change its shape, form, meaning, right? So not death in the literal sense like a Pluto, but more of like the frequency shifts. It's a transmutation of something, right? So it just becomes something else. So there is a little bit of grief and sorrow that comes with like that Neptune kind of transit. But it's opening you up to understand that this is all again connected to something that's bigger than yourself. Okay, bigger, a part of the bigger picture, that you're connected to other things other than what your ego identity could actually comprehend. And that you're not alone, right? So when you're resisting surrender, that's when you'll feel powerless. That's when you'll feel like I can't control this, I can't make this happen. Like again, my career thing, like I can't find my career, I can't find my meaning, my purpose. I felt so powerless. Like I remember meeting other women my age, and they were like well into their career, making great money, and I was like, fuck. I'm so behind, right? Now I'm like doing pretty good. So, and it happened really fast, but it's because like I was resisting, right? And so that's when like a breakdown will happen, the crisis will happen, and so forth, because eventually you have to give up, right? Eventually it's like because you're drained, you're tired, you're not feeling supported, and so forth, right? So letting go is learning to relax and understand that these painful things have a meaning and have a purpose, and they're trying to show you a truth, like a truth right in front of you, a sense of reality right in front of you. Okay. So again, like if you don't surrender, it can feel like control issues deepen and they become worse. Okay. You can have all that stress and that fear around losing that sense of control. You can exhaust yourself trying to maintain too much control. You could definitely feel like you are losing your mind, which is why a lot of people, I think, you can see when somebody's having a Neptune transit, right? Because they're like, I'm losing my mind and I can't control anything. And where is the fucking Jack Daniels? You know what I mean? So that's the reality is like people will then escape into other things, right? Try to control everything in their reality. But if when you surrender, and it's so hard, I know it is to just trust and let go. But when you do, like you notice that you'll start to have more healing. You'll notice that you'll start to have synchronizations. Like the universe will speak to you in weird ways, right? Angel numbers, for instance. The right people will start to fall into your life and start to support you. And this is where you really have to ask yourself, if you're struggling with a Neptune transit right now, or you're gearing up for it, is what you're doing right now really helping you? Is it? And like, what do you have to lose if you just surrender and like release the need to control an outcome, right? You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to trust in yourself right now. And this really does deepen your sense of self-trust with yourself and your intuition, which then just strengthens your third eye and your crown chakra, because that's really what we're dealing with here when we're dealing with the Neptune transit too. And when you start to clarify that, you start to see with your third eye and you start to guide your life with your crown chakra. It can't always be on, but maybe it can. You start to align yourself with a much higher frequency, and like the universe shows itself that you are supported, and you don't have to live in fear, and you don't have to live in control. Okay. Sounds really nice, right? It is quite difficult, but just knowing that you know Spirit is here, Neptune is here to guide you, to support you, okay? And that basically the sense of powerlessness that can come through, that's a choice. That's a choice at the end of the day. And I think that is like probably what I'll wrap up with this Neptune message, is because um a lot of people, like, again, they, like I opened up with this video, like have a really hard time with like understanding how to actually practically work with a Neptune transit. And they're just like, well, things aren't going to be clear for a really long time. You're just going to have to deal with it. All these awful people are going to come into your life and nobody's going to be truthful and honest. And that's just like, that's just a choice. That's a choice. It comes down to you thinking over the things we discussed, right? Allowing yourself to have a higher intuition, a deeper connection, allowing yourself to let go of things that you think are helping a situation, but they're not. Things that you use to control a situation or an outcome, to feel a sense of meaning, to feel a sense of purpose, to feel a deeper connection or a bigger, wider connection to something. Letting those things go that aren't helping you evolve or move forward anymore. Okay, those are the things that are going to help you move and navigate forward during this Neptunian transit. Okay, remember, it's a transpersonal planet, so it really doesn't affect you like Mercury, Venus, the moon does, like on a very like day-to-day kind of thing, especially the moon, right? It's one of my favorite things, as you guys know, to use in astrology. Like, you get triggered by the moon, right? This is a heavier weighted planet, right? So you really want to like spend time navigating this in your chart, right? And really being like, oh, this is the overarching, picture here with Neptune. Like, this is going to help me really move and flow and make my life just really just flow with the universe and cultivate all that beauty and that magic and that glamour that Neptune can promise, right? That connection, that meaningfulness, that connectivity to, bigger things, like the glamorous things, the more wonderful things, the more loving things, compassionate things that Neptune can bring, right? We want to match that frequency, right? Not get stuck in the lower frequencies when we're trying to escape and so forth, right? So everybody, thank you for like staying through this video. If you are reaching the end, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you're sticking around, because we're going to have Neptune through the houses coming up. Okay. Part 2 and part 3. If you haven't checked out my transits videos for Pluto, you might want to watch that for my evolutionary take, because you have Pluto through Aquarius for the next 20 years, and you can apply this to all of your Pluto transits. And also the Saturn transits, because Saturn's going to be moving into Aries very soon also. And I'm making these videos so that you can, do your own astrology work on your own. And, if you want to work with me, whether that's spiritual coaching or get an evolutionary astrology reading, and we can talk about your transits, what you're going through. You can find all my services on scenicrouteastrology.com. You can book right through my website. You can also find me on Instagram, Scenic Route Astrology, or Miss Makayla Davis. I'll link all that below. I have book now buttons on both my Instagram pages, and I'm happy to take on new clients and work with you and see if I can help you in any way. All right, whether that's spiritual coaching, learning astrology, or just getting an astrology reading. I have a bunch of services on there. All right, and hopefully that helps you guys out. Until next time, okay, have a good night and happy eclipse week coming up. It's this Friday coming up, and I'll talk to you guys soon.